Hello, anybody out there? It's Michelle sitting here in her kitchen alone. Hopefully other folks will be joining us soon. And if not, then maybe you'll get to hear me talking to myself. I'll be back in a minute. Nicole. Hey there. Can you hear me? Yeah, you're muted, it looks like. Still looks like you're muted.
Okay.
Okay. Say something.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool, good. Are we
And
the
you
only
hear
ones
me
here?
okay? We're the only ones here. I just, the live, I went live at 5 o'clock and told anybody that may be listening, it looks like we have one viewer right now. That's probably Vanita. Let me see what this message is. I said, y'all may have to hear me talking to myself. So, I'm glad to see you.
Oh, my computer looks a little grainy here. Let me see if I can pull the lamp over. Still just looks grainy. Do you notice that? It doesn't look so clear to me.
Yeah, it does look a little grainy.
I'm going to go out and come back in and see if that'll help.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. So we are still waiting on the facilitator for tonight's session, Leonie Smith. And I guess give her another minute. I'm trying to keep my eye on Facebook to see if she is having any technical difficulties trying to send me a note or anything like that. I don't see anything, so I guess she is just running a couple of minutes late. So I guess we'll give her a couple of minutes. So, well, I don't know. I guess I can introduce the book while I'm sitting here. We are reading the Crunk Feminist Collection. Hi, say something, Nicole. Make sure.
Hi, can you hear me?
I hear you, and the picture is better.
Okay. I think it might be due to, I don't have the light. The light goes off automatically. And so I'm just not even messing with that light today. So perhaps that's it. I'm not sure, but I'm here.
Good, because I don't like talking to myself. Well, I do, but not on video.
I know that's right.
So I was just saying, this is our session 9 reading selection. My book is so tattered, and you would be too if you walked around in my backpack the way this one has. Feminist Collection, edited by Brittney Cooper, Susanna Morris, and Robin Boylorn, and published by the Feminist Press. That is my, what do you call it? The signing by Brittney Cooper, autographing. I met her just before we started reading this book on September 19th. She was a part of the Brooklyn Book Festival. And actually, since that time, Nicole, I have become Facebook friends with Susana Morris.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I've seen her click on, a couple of our videos. So they know we're out here and doing this and absorbing and reflecting and
that's really
part their work. So
yes. And I know it must, it must feel good to have your work supported, especially when you're, as an academic who is also still very much so committed to the community. So what some of them call themselves like academic scholars or
activists.
Activist scholars, yes. So definitely I can see the benefit there. And I think they've done something wonderful here. I love the way that the book, I can see it, how it's also, kind of employing this pedagogical model, teaching, and it's just very, very interesting to me because, I understand that they have kept their audience in mind, and because they're attempting to reach a broad spectrum of, namely women, and women of color, it makes sense the way that, but it's not done in a disparaging way or condescending way.
No, it's very accessible. They write like real Black women.
Absolutely.
It sounds like, you're
very
just
smart women
sitting around talking with your sisters,
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But also very empowering and still giving the reader some academic language. So, I guess in a way I could say, considering like code switching or when people have to go from one audience to another. So I see it as very empowering. I sure do.
Yeah.
I'm using my Kindle, so I'm going to, you see me looking down, I'm going to our sections. I'm always kind of reading ahead here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you said code switching, it made me think about the essay on Beauty Shop.
Ah, yes.
Beauty Shop, where Robin Boylorn, I believe it was, wrote about her, just how much she loved the I think what did she call it? Black woman love.
Yes, yes.
You experienced that she experiences.
Yes.
Shop, and and that's a place that Black women traditionally share a sort of intimacy and recipes and
that's therapy. Yes.
all kinds of stuff.
Wasn't that a part of President Obama's initiative, Black Men in the Barbershops?
Was it?
Black barbers promoting better health, and so on. I think that, if I remember correctly, that was a component of a part, his initiatives as well. But yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Nicole. Hi, Michelle.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I missed you all last week.
We missed you too. We needed you.
Yeah.
As I need you all every week. I said, as I need you all weekly. Absolutely.
I love you.
Well, last week especially, did you hear us trying to talk about ratchetness?
Oh my goodness.
That was a mess.
Oh my goodness. I think when we were choosing our sections, right, I think that was like, did somebody make the comment like, ratchet, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Because Kim did the week before, what was it on? Love, something, relationships or something. I was like, oh, I want to do that one.
Oh, yeah. It was not love. It was more getting your freak on. It was not so much love.
That's right. Get your freak on.
Oh,
I sound like me.
And I cannot even hear that phrase without thinking of Missy Elliott and how like newer generations are discovering Missy Elliott as a result of commercials and award shows, and how her music has now been, it's circulating and it's being introduced to these younger generations. So yes, how very interesting and so relevant to this book, the way that they make the hip hop allusions.
Yeah.
So interesting. They did a great job.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So Kim, we were just kind of sitting here, chewing the fat, trying to give Leonie some time to get in, since she's the facilitator for tonight. But it is now 5:13, and I think she's on the Pacific Coast. So I don't know if she got the times mixed up.
You know what? She might have. I know I did that the first time I joined you all.
Yeah.
I was just happily waiting until, was it 6:30? Yeah. And
I remember, yeah. But she did send us some interesting questions. So I don't know, maybe in the interest of not losing too much time, we should go ahead and get started.
Okay.
What do you know? Okay, well, I already introduced the book, the Crunk Feminist Collection. And I said it's our Session 9 book. Session 9 goes on to December 19th. So we just have 2 more weeks in this book. And I think next week you're facilitating, Kim, and then on December 19th, Nicole.
Yes.
So we are about done. And of course, we decided previously that for Session 10, we would read Here Comes the Sun. So,
That's right.
So I'm looking forward to that too. I'm Michelle Odom. I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the host of the Reading Circle.
Hi, everyone. Oh. I came in too soon. Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Wilson. I am joining you from College Station, Texas.
And I am Kim, and I'm joining you from New York.
New York, New York. It's in the house. All right. There were a bunch of essays, of course, in this week's reading. One of them was on Scandal, A Scandal and Lawn Chair, Why Olivia Pope Can't Save Us from Racism. Another is Tyler Perry Hates Black Women, 5 Thoughts on the Haves and the Have-Nots. Then one called You're Pretty for a Dark-Skinned Girl. Another one called Does This Make Me Look Fat? Another one, Does This Make Me Look Latina? Another one, Memories, Survival, and Safety. And another one, Getting to Happy, or the Myth of Happily Ever After. And another one, When You're the One. And these are primarily from this section called Identity, Intersectionality for a New Generation. And that section of the book is really doing just what it says, looking at identity through the lens of the power structures that get in the way. A lot of these essays made me think about Melissa Harris Perry's book, where she talks about the crooked room.
Sister Citizen, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Sister Citizen, yeah. So, Kim, why don't you read question 1?
Okay, let's see here. Let me pull it back up real quick. This essay ends with a commentary on silence, on the impact of violence on Black women. She states, gender/sex does not preclude racism. Racism affects Black girls and women as much as Black men. What is lost by the lack of narratives around the experience of Black women? What is lost by the lack of narratives around the experience of Black women?
Now, which essay is she referring to there, do you think?
Has to be the one before the Scandal essay.
The Scandal essay?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, because the contributor makes that argument that, and I guess it could also pull Tyler Perry, of course, in there as well.
Okay. So what is lost by the lack of narratives around the experience of Black women? I think this sense of invisibility. This is an aside, kind of, sorta, but in my twisted mind, it's I see a relationship. So I was in this little storefront. Oh, we lost Kim.
Oh yeah.
Oh no. Well, I was in this little storefront to buy some cigarettes, and the guy that owns it in my neighborhood, the guy that owns it is some kind of Indian. And very often when I go in there, he acts like he doesn't see me. He's busy on the phone. He's busy tabulating numbers. He's busy, busy, busy. And the fact that I'm standing here
right,
with cash money is of little to no interest to him, you know. Sometimes he's like kind of flirtatious. So, you know, I don't know if this is like some kind of chauvinist dance he's got going on, like, you know.
right, yes.
I don't know what it is, but very often I am just tired. I just got off the train. I'm on my way home. I just want to get my stuff and go in the house. And sometimes I will walk out of the store because he's just taking too long to act like he sees me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I go in last night and he can't see, he's acting like he can't see me, but he is also arguing with this young person to be his son.
Mm.
The young person appeared to be maybe 13, 14 years old.
Ah.
So he's screaming at this boy in some kind of language, Arabic, I don't know, some language. And the anger on his face was just like, you could really, I mean, he really literally, I believe, could not see me. He was in a zone. The next thing I know, pow, he knocks his kid
oh my gosh.
and goes, I left. I just left. I didn't do anything. I didn't call anybody.
Oh my gosh.
Really like traumatized. I've never seen such in my life. But the reason I brought up this story in relationship to this question, what is lost by the lack of narratives around the experience of Black women, is I often have the feeling as I move through the world of invisibility.
Absolutely.
And I think that is, you know, our presence, our physical reality, our existence is some of what lost by engaging the narratives of Black women.
Absolutely. I would, so interesting that you say that. Let me go back to the question too. What's lost by the lack of narratives? Okay. So what I kind of see, Michelle, going back to that, the discussion of invisibility, it's like I generally see invisible Black women. So Black women, we are made or we're rendered, shall I say, invisible. But then there's like for Black men, a hyper visibility. It's like if Black men are sharing space or taking up space with others, namely non-people of color, there's this hyper visibility. There is, the trope of the big black man, the big black boogeyman, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've often tried to reconcile that. And, in my imagination and writing and discussions, I really don't know what to make of that. I can go back to like what I would call them critical race feminists. And they do talk about like the invisibility of associated with Black women. But like when I read James Baldwin or Ta-Nehisi Coates and others, it seems to me like the Black male presence is, in public space.
Mm-hmm.
He's dealing with a visibility, like a threatening visibility. So that's difficult and something I still haven't reconciled. in as much as the question about our narratives, let me go back to the question here. Because I want to, get it right here. So she says, what is lost by the lack of narratives around the experiences of Black women? So what's lost, of course, the essays already address like this kind of the stereotypes and the caricatures that we that are used to locate when people think they're locating or identifying, recognizing a Black woman. No, you've identified a trope a lot of times. And we're more complex than that. But I think really what's lost is the agency. And what I love is that, I know people who feel that's problematic. What's the other show? How I Got Away with Murder. A lot of these shows, arguably some people can make those arguments that these are problematic, but I like that it's not, I don't think it's just to tell a Black woman's story, but it's when Black women tell these stories. You see, I think that has to be the push, because for so long historically we've had people tell our stories, even if you go back to slave narratives. But it's when we can speak for self. It's something about when Zora Neale Hurston talked about the Black woman being the mule of the world. It's when Black women can tell those stories that I think is, more of what we need. So, okay, Kim, I'm passing. I'm passing the baton.
Well, a lot kind of came up for me in that, a lot of little fragments of thoughts. And the invisibility, one thought is that historically, that you didn't want to see the Black woman because she was in your house. She was making your dinner, making your beds, being abused by your men. So there was a sense of invisibility that allowed you to have the good life at her expense, because she couldn't raise her own children because she was raising yours. So she couldn't be deemed as equal or somebody with needs. So I think historically we became out of necessity that you don't want to look at our plight or what your comfort does to me, and how that makes my life unbearable because you need somebody to change the chamber pots. I think the other thing that's lacking in the narrative is that Black women have a forthright perspective that a lot of times is missing. And I think that our intelligence is not always at the table. And you can look at certain things in history and you could say, they needed a Black woman on that panel. They needed somebody that's not afraid to tell the truth. And that's the thing I love about us, is that we may not always be extremely diplomatic, and some of us are, some of us like myself are not, or working on it. But there's a forthrightness that comes with us. It's almost like a spirituality where we tend to tell the truth, and we tend not to get caught up in hidden agendas and always looking at the mighty dollar. I just don't see us all the time as looking at, how we can push through the margins. Sorry about that. And then lastly, I would just say that we need to, once we have a voice, to make it count as much as possible, because all the wretchedness and stuff that we were talking about before, I know that sells soap and I know that sells cigarettes for you, but you can't say that you want to be visible, and then when you are visible, it's at your own expense. That I find problematic.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think along the same lines, Kim, and
sorry.
Using the word that Nicole used, complexity. You know, that if I think about those essays on Tyler Perry and Olivia Pope
Oh,
and
Pope.
Annalise Keating, you know, love them or hate them, Annalise and Olivia show us Black women in a way that we're not used to seeing. And so that has been the history and tradition of really the very young art of TV.
Yes.
Of just having very stereotypical, narrow roles for Black women, Black people to play, that don't show the richness and fullness and complexity of who we really are. And so it's like the thing with the ratchetness. I know some of those people, you know, in real life. They they do exist. It's like where stereotypes come from. You know, often there is some grain of truth, some grain of salt to where the stereotype comes from. The problem is it doesn't reveal the true breadth of who we are. We're not all the same. We're very diverse, unique individuals. And so when you only see one thing being portrayed, then all the other stuff is lost.
Yes. That's so true. Still fighting, and hence why representation matters. Still fighting that battle years and years and so many years later. And I think about James Baldwin when he said that can't remember which one of his books, but he was, you know, he talked about Aunt Jemima and, you know, the Uncle Tom's, those stereotypical those tropes. And he says, you know, to what limbo have they vanished? And what we have to concern ourselves with is how will they reappear? And I think it's Brittney Cooper, how she puts the spin on it, you know, the remix tropes, the baby mama, the hoe, the freak, you know, in that one section that was really interesting because we do see the continuing life of these tropes. And that has very real implications for our lives. That's an interesting one. Well, I can read number 2. Okay. Boylorn covers colorism and You're Pretty for a Dark-Skinned Girl. She writes, it's hard to see yourself as beautiful when the epitome of beauty is seen as something white. What strategies for helping Black women and girls with dark skin see themselves as valued have worked for you? What do you share with the dark-skinned women and girls in your lives? Well, I could start as a mom. So it's really interesting because my kind of consciousness around colorism within the Black community, I didn't gain that consciousness, sadly, until I went away to college. And it bothers me when I think back on, you know, the problematics of privilege, right? So even as a Black woman who grew up working class, who in the South, I still have to admit sometimes the way that privilege works and how it becomes problematic because not that I'm not, never been regarded as a very light skin. Like I've never had that, so-called light skin privilege in that regard, like her sister has, like she talks about her sister, but I've never really had to be concerned with, stereotypes regarding dark skin. I remember being in elementary school and, the darker skinned Black children were called African booty scratchers. And like, and it's very painful because like I try to recall faces now and I hope that somewhere those children healed because in childhood is where that trauma, it's set in childhood. Um, so having said that, I came, gained this kind of critical consciousness, I guess, as a freshman in college where I really started really questioning things. And it's, and here in the South, of course, terrible. But having
In the
children,
Southwest.
it's challenging. Um, and then can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then having children who are dark skinned, that's my son as well as my daughters. I still notice there's a gender slant to this because even though my son had acknowledged, dealing with, being a dark skinned Black male, it's not the same. And he didn't have, he'll say like, oh, we were roasting each other. And sometimes the kids like to talk about, or mention his skin color. But the older he got, that went away. But my daughters, I know they are struggling and have struggled. And so what I have to do is humanize and value. And I have to demonstrate that. And it's not like that's not already a value in my home because I happen to, I love a dark skinned Black man. But it's sad. It's sad to look at the gender split there, right? Because you could have a Wesley Snipes, you could have a Tyrese, you could have, these sex symbols, male sex symbols who are very dark skinned Black men. But when it comes to darker skinned Black women, we see something in media representation, we see something totally different occurring there. So just to answer the question for my personally, what I do for my children and other dark skinned Black girls, because I'm just not quite comfortable. I want to like that would be the reverse, right? If I saw a dark skinned Black woman, like, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of, but for girls, for the younger generations, I know the one thing I can do is affirm them, and affirm their beauty, their kindness, their consideration, their whatever it is. I know how to affirm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Kim, anything?
I agree with what Nicole said. I'm also a parent. I would consider my daughter dark skinned, but it's so subjective. I think there are people who consider me dark skinned because they are very light. It's just all so subjective. It's funny. It's like the three of us are here on this meeting, and somebody else could come to this meeting who is more, just very light, and then we would be the dark skinned ones.
Right. Yeah.
So it's amazing that I remember somebody saying to me, oh, I usually like to go out with red bone girls, and I was just like, well, you need to go find one. This whole
right.
color thing is so subjective.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then when you see the videos and you see when we do have an opportunity to put forth a celebrity who we choose. But I think it's just gotten a little bit better for my daughter's generation. In some ways, I think it's gotten a little better that there's more variety of faces and what beauty looks like and what hair looks like. And I'm just so excited about the natural hair movement. That it's bigger now than it was when I was coming up. So I just see sisters out there rocking it, like stepping out. This is what I look like if I want to shave the sides, if I want to do whatever. You know, I see them stepping out, and that impresses me. That impresses me. And then you have so many sisters that I was watching the show this morning, and it's 4 Black women on the show, and it's like 2 of them have long blonde hair. I can't get with that. I just can't get with that. You know, that what does that say about you if you need to have your weave got to be blonde too? I don't know. I just think that I'm looking at somebody's outsides. I'm judging their outside as opposed to judging their insides. And I think internally, I see them as powerful women. But I always just say, well, what's with the blonde hair down your back? Why could it be down your back? So,
well, it's such an intense topic, right?
Yes.
Because the Black community has been dealing with this issue of colorism, you know, for a long time. So it's deeply embedded stuff going on, and so I'm not really sure what the best strategies are. I don't really have any girls in my life. I've had a couple of close girlfriends who are very dark skinned, and to me, both of them seem to have very high self-esteem. They're both very pretty, and they know that. But you know, I remember one of them. We were friends as little girls, and I used to want to try to talk about this issue, but she never really wanted to talk about the issue. And that's kind of been my experience with dark-skinned girls and women, that they don't really want to talk about it because they're busy doing the work of shoring up their own self-esteem. And so I was really glad when that movie came out, Dark Skinned Girls, whatever it was. You know, it had dark skinned women really talking about the pain of this situation. And so I was so glad to see that, because I think overall, as a strategy, until we can really get it out in the open and sensitize people to how hurtful they're being, it's going to continue to be a part of our fabric. Yes. So, you know, so that, but as I read that essay and the others, well, one thing, this particular essay reminded me of my mother used to say to me when I was a girl, "You would be so pretty if you weren't so fat." And this was her idea of motivation. It was just my idea of hurtful.
Yes.
But she really thought that somehow if I absorbed that message, I would put down the macaroni and cheese. But all it did was make me eat more macaroni and cheese. Color on there too. You
Absolutely.
know. So this essay.
Hi.
Leonie.
I'm so sorry. I'm in California. I got the time. I was like, I wrote it down for 6 hours later. I wrote it down for 8 o'clock tonight. So sorry.
Wow. We would be gone.
Yes.
Yeah, we thought you might have mixed up the time. So we're on 2.
Okay.
But it just made me, but some of these essays just made me think about, why is it? What is going on with us that we think it's okay to offer our opinions to other people about how they look? Like I remember saying something to y'all a while ago that, I might just cut your knees off. And Leonie said, "Oh, you don't take a compliment very well," right? and it's not that I don't appreciate the compliment. What I don't appreciate is the assumption that you have the right to pass judgment on me if I didn't ask for your opinion. I don't care what you think about what I do with my hair. I don't care what you think about the size of my body. I don't care what you think about the color of my skin. I get that you have an opinion. I have an opinion about you too. I feel like it is my place or my right to project that onto you, particularly if you're not asking me, Michelle, what do you think about this weave? Now, if you ask me, I might tell you. But if you don't ask me, then I think it's like the height of rudeness. And so that's what I see in a lot of this, like, shaming of other people. And going back to the story about my mother, sometimes I think it is coming out of a genuine place of you want to be helpful, and you think by telling somebody, your opinion about something that they're doing, especially if it's something that they potentially could change, you think you're being helpful. But I'm here to tell you that I believe more often than not, it's not helpful. It's hurtful. And so this compliment that Boylorn focuses on, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl. It affirms and hurts at the same time. Nobody does that shit. So as a strategy, I think the more that we can say that kind of thing out loud and get people to understand, I mean, the reality is life itself is filled, replete with diversity in everything. There's every color flower, everything is in the universe. And so, it's just stupid to put one above the other. But as a species, we've still got some growing to do to understand that. So,
Michelle, you make me think maybe I should take back my blonde weave comments. Maybe that wasn't a I'm very sorry. I
didn't touch me at all, but
I just thought it was so well put. So thank you, Michelle.
All right. So, Leonie, anything on question 1 or 2 before you move us forward? You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I'm not in a quiet room, so I'm just trying to be respectful of the recording. Anything on question 1 or 2? Gosh, I wish I was here to hear what you guys had to say for number 2. But to hear more of what you had to say. I think I'm just ready to kind of move with the flow. So we'll go on to question number 3 then. Does anybody want to read question 3?
I'll read it.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
In Susana M. Morris's Does This Make Me Look Fat? She writes of the criticism or fat bashing women with bigger bodies are exposed to. A lot of this behavior is born out of self-loathing and the public shaming that comes along with being even remotely associated with being overweight. This is one of the many ways the bodies of Black women are policed. What can one do to counter the ever-present messages that our bodies are not desirable? Is taking on a pride stance?
It should be fat pride, not fat prince.
Oh, fat pride. And what's BBW?
Big Black women.
Oh yeah, or big, bold, and beautiful. Big Black women are big, bold, and beautiful. Big, bold women.
Okay. Okay. So it's taking on a pride stance, fat pride, or big, bold, Black, beautiful women the only strategy available? Or are there other ways of building our resilience?
I think first of all, we normalize stuff until it's, called out. And so that's the problem with gaining critical consciousness. And if you are going to be, as the Crunk contributors explain, that since they can't dismantle these places and dismantle places, they disrupt them. So if you're going to do the work of disrupting these types of practices, right, then you have to do the work of calling it out and educating. So that's one of the things. Sometimes we grow up, things have been normalized in our respective spaces. So we grow up doing specific things and we don't learn until we get outside of our traditional discourse communities. And then we learn, hey, that's not cool, or, that's rather rude, or I've not granted you access to my body like that for you to be offering undesired or critiques that are not asked for. So, but it's sometimes once we get outside of those communities. So I think that's one of the things, that I would definitely suggest to disrupt, interrupt, and, call it out. I'd say that loosely because I know we're in this so-called social media call out culture, but and then to educate. So it was necessary for me to start talking about, once I gained the consciousness, bringing that back to my family of how darker skinned Black people are treated, or, and so on. I'm just saying, I think there's a responsibility there.
And to pick up on the work of education, I want to read a Crunk public service announcement given to us by Susana Morris on page 255. Fat does not equal ugly. Fat does not equal weak. Being thin does not make one morally superior to those who are not. Being thin does not make one healthier than those who are not. Leave your judgment at the door. Feel free to bring your love right on in. So yeah, there's a lot of educational work to do around the ignorance of fat shaming or trying to make other people feel bad about their weight. I have been losing weight recently. And
I can see.
Those people, yeah. I'm one of those people that have dieted, you know, I'm a lifelong kind of dieter. But I used to be able to put on a few pounds and decide that I wanted to take it off, and I would adjust what I was eating and how much I was moving, and the weight would come off. I hit this wall where it was like, no matter what I did, I could be eating lettuce and turkey breast and gain weight. And so that's been going on for a long time. But since this autoimmune disease has been diagnosed, and I've been taking this medication for that, then the regular work that I do to try to control my diet, I'm seeing actual results. And it's wow. And so my point is that, you know, there really are any number of underlying medical conditions that contribute to weight gain. And you're not a doctor. You don't know what somebody's dealing with, you know. You don't know whether it's a simple matter of self-control or what's going on. So, you know, STFU kind of thing.
Or did you all like when she talks about how the body has actually been a battlefield, that these conflicts have been played out? I thought that was just like the penultimate description. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kim, with your...
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, that's all. I was just referencing that comment that she made about the body being the Black body being this battlefield.
That's in that same section?
I think is that in that section? I believe so. I know I have my Kindle, so let me see if I can find it. But yeah, she talks about that, and these contestations are played out, and you know, I thought that was just like the penultimate way to discuss this issue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I have it highlighted somewhere here, but it really resonated with me.
Well, I guess when I look at this section, it's the only one that's like one page. You know, and it just felt like she phoned it in. It just felt like, from reading some of the other RATCHET postings, and some of them go on to 3 or 4 pages. This one felt like I was hoping that it would be more in depth and more substance to it. And some of the points that Michelle made, I would have liked to have seen. It's like, there's so much going on within a body, physically and emotionally, so you can't really compare somebody's outsides to your insides, or vice versa. So, and then I was just thinking, not only in Nigeria, she mentioned, but in Sierra Leone, that the bigger the woman is, the more wealth she has and the more power. So different cultures, different, there's so many aspects to weight. And I just would have loved to walk away from this piece feeling like it wasn't just another post that you had to do. And that's what I got from this.
You know how rhetorical that is, because I'm using my Kindle on my cell phone to read it. So I would have never known that it's just one page, because I've had to swipe a few times, to get to. So that is very interesting and rhetorical in terms of text production, the way that it does not transfer once we move to these digital formats. That's very interesting. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's fat shaming within the family, there's fat shaming, outside, there's this internal fat shaming. It's just like, for me, it just has so much. I mean, so much of my identity has been linked to my size as opposed to my character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just amazing. I think the fat also makes me invisible. So to be fat, black, and female, it's like, I might as well just get me an invisibility cape. Because there's just so many people.
I think, Kim, though, something Leonie said last week kind of goes to that issue, is that these really are blog posts, and not essays. They're not really fully covering anything. This particular one, Does This Make Me Look Fat, was kind of a review of the movie Fat Girls.
Oh, okay.
Starring Monique. And in fact, I looked up that movie this week because I had never seen it.
I like the movie.
Thought very amusing. Yeah.
But I just think reading it as a book, and you keep getting these quick hits in and out, in and out, in and out. After a while, you start feeling like, what am I getting out of this? So I understand their blog posts, but at the same time, just for me personally, this is just me personally, if we weren't reading this book together, at some point, I think I may put it down, because it just feels a little schizophrenic to just jump from topic to topic to topic with such a light stroke.
Yeah, that's why I find the introductions to each section really helpful, because they kind of, for me, pull together, or help me look for the common themes that run through the essays. Yeah, but I understand what you mean by that kind of choppy feeling, because you really do have to kind of think about, why. Like, I remember with on the Ratchet stuff, there was the essay on the Mindy Project. And, I had to really go deep to think about, why is this essay, why is this post, why is this entry even included among this topic on ratchetness? What's the connection? And so I came up with some stuff, because I can spin a yarn, but but it was not readily apparent, And what I kind of got out of it was that if we think of ratchet as over the top, beyond the usual, then just Mindy being the first Indian American, on a major TV program, I guess, is what's ratchet about her and why she was included in that section.
Leonie, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, for me, I wrote this question just kind of based on what the idea of the subject of the writing kind of brought up for me, not so much for the content itself, because I think I've shared that I've had the same issue around the blog post and the depth of it. But in terms of the question itself, sorry, I'm navigating and negotiating several things here. You know, it's just really, these are very complex issues, and almost and the thing is that there's so much commentary about our bodies, and misinformation about things, people sharing things that they assume are facts. And it's just so important for me anyway. What's been really important for me on my own journey is to get to a place where I connect with my own body and I have an understanding of it, and that I set the goals for myself, because there's nothing for me in terms of media to capture. Even on the medical side, I mean, there's just so much bullshit around what people have to say when you have a larger body. And the other piece too is that, like, is that even a fit Black body still looks like a fat body to white people. Right?
True.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's nothing for us externally in terms of being able to have that reflected.
How is in the book, you all, I'm trying to remember, mythical, does she use it as in mythical bodies, mythical norms? I can't remember the way it's phrased, but
The white male.
yes. So when I look at those that chart, what's that chart that I'm thinking of? The doctors
The body size, the weight chart.
well, it says like if you're this tall,
The
you should
BMI,
weigh
the
this.
BMI.
The BMI.
BMI,
Yes.
yeah.
So, I'm like, hell, I think I hit that when I was 14 or 15. Like, it's brutal. It's one of those it's a text that includes like a vicious rhetoric, in my opinion. And to me it's outdated. It is it attempts to normalize specific bodies, and I don't understand why those charts are even in existence, because at Leonie, like you said, I meant to take it a step further. You cannot determine by a person's size how healthy the individual is. You just simply can't. And to recognize that illnesses impact bodies in different ways. So I don't even understand why, as patients, we are still subjected to the abuse of those, and I don't know a better term for it. Those charts are abusive.
Yeah, I was looking at one recently, and since I am on a weight loss roll here, so I was feeling like, oh, I really could set a goal and reach it.
Right.
What goal do I want? So I looked at the charts, and you know how they give you like a range within each body type, small, medium, large, kind of. I hit the upper range when I was about 16.
Yes.
And of normal. And then it goes to a section for overweight and then a section for obese. Well, the lower limit of obese is what I would consider my comfortable weight.
Right. Absolutely.
It's like, if I really hit this normal goal that they're talking about, which I probably can at this point, but I think I would feel anemic. I think I would look hard. I don't even want to get there.
I agree. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that maybe I said this before, but to me, a lot of what runs through all of these essays, is just really the need for listening to your own voice, because there's not that much good stuff on the outside for various reasons. And so, but it's a process to learn how to tune out all of the negativity that comes at us, in order to hear our own voices. But it's necessary. So, I'm thinking about Leonie's question here on a pride stance, fat pride, the only available strategy. And so I'm saying no, because like even that, the fat pride strikes me as more of a defensive reaction to the negativity that's coming at us, as opposed to a really healthy way of seeing ourselves and managing ourselves.
Managing the self, I like that. Okay, well, I will.
Are we ready to move forward? Yeah. Can someone go ahead? I have a lot of background noise here. Can we read the next question?
Yeah, I can read number 4. Let's take, excuse me. Let's take a look at the list, of advice, and does this make me look Latina? Is this list complete? Does this list contribute to the policing of bodies? Is this list only for Latinas? Well, that's a good question, because I was looking at some posts on Twitter. So like, I look at my social media activity is so different. I share on Facebook and I just retweet pretty much on Twitter. So I was looking at some conversations that Afro Latinas were having. And so even when we talk about like Latinas, Latinos, in some way we are circling right back to sometimes talking about Blackness, because that does not necessarily exclude Black Latinas, Latinos. And so so it's very interesting to me reading this essay. I was just waiting for her, and maybe I overlooked it. But I know that earlier she kind of, and maybe she felt like she's already dealt with that, the notion of Latinas and sex appeal. But also, like when we get to those, like, the costumes for Halloween, and generally you see the maid, like there's this double stereotype of the sex appeal, the sexy domestic though, with Latinas. And I thought, she would pull that in, and at least I don't see it. And then I kind of rejoiced when she talked about Jennifer Lopez. There was not really, I don't think, a complex discussion there of how Jennifer Lopez's sexuality has been consumed and commodified. That could be a chapter alone, right? Because she kind of has been heralded as this quintessential Latina sex symbol, but then there's this history of her dating these, especially like puffy hip hop, this very wealthy Black men, and then very wealthy white men like Ben Affleck, right? So, but anyway, I guess that's not where she was going. But I got lost at number 1. I'm going to be honest with you all. And, you know, and that's a social class issue. And that's another component that I don't think was touched on enough. The advice to dress for the job you want, not the job you have. It excludes or forecloses another conversation about who's going to buy these damn clothes. And what happens when your social class background is such that you can't really afford. So if you want to be an executive, I don't know if, so I guess I need you all to kind of help me here. I don't know how to read this. So if a person wants to be an executive, right? So I'm talking upper management, not necessarily mid management. Some people want, you know, upper management. And you want that to, you know, the job of the to become the executive. And I'm thinking tailored suits and so on. A person can tell the difference, I think, in those spaces if you're wearing a 3-piece suit from Walmart versus something like, I didn't know how to read that. Am I totally off here, or can you all see what I'm saying there? Like, I didn't know what to do with that. What to make of this advice?
I didn't take it that deeply, Nicole, but you know.
Okay.
That just may be me. I saw the list as general advice, good for pretty much anybody. Remember, she was writing this to talk to a group of high school or college graduates who were just going out into the workforce for the first time. And so I saw it as a list of generally good advice. What I didn't see was anything in the list really specifically targeted to because you're, I think the word is Latinx they're using now.
Yes, now, yeah, that will.
Because you're or Latina, you know, I didn't really see the direct connection to that. Seemed like a general. So that advice, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. You know, if you're just starting out in the workforce, then you can shoot for upper management, but you got a ways to go before you either can or need to pull out tailored suits.
Well, you all are kind. I thought this list was horseshit.
Yes, you go ahead, Leonie.
Okay. I mean, I'm just starting at number 1. I just start there, like that's tough for me when people say dress for the job. Because again, my question is, who's gonna buy these damn clothes?
Well, and the other thing, and
when
also,
you're working class, I mean, I don't know.
Where the piece that's missing for me is because I looked up the woman that she referred to here, the woman who, the Latina woman, whatever, Deborah Lynn, whatever. And here's the piece that's missing for me. The fact that people make assumptions that the bodies of Latina and Black women are more available to them. I don't see that addressed on this list.
Right.
There's only so much that you can sit there and that you can do, but it doesn't change the fact that people, both Latina women and Black women, are associated with being with more sexually promiscuous, sexually available.
And do you think we have to add something there, you all, and specifically Leonie, since you brought that very good point up, the fact that sometimes we're talking about curvier bodies, you know, and
that that whole equation, a curvier body does lead to more harassment. The assumption is that you're more available, especially the darker the skin. That's sure. Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Another thing is you got to know when to lead a party. You got to know when to lead a party. You have to have almost a weather vane to kind of say, this is getting hot in here. This is it's so many situations, because I've been in corporate America. I was there almost 30 years. And when people start getting drunk, their inhibitions start going down, and you got to know when to leave the party. And then you can kind of read people. You have to be on top of who is a creep.
What do you think about all these sexual harassment, sexual assault accusations coming out lately? Matt Lauer, John Conyers, Oh, we are in the thick of it right now.
Right. So I guess my whole thing was, I would have also on the list is, you don't have to assimilate 100%. You can find ways to interweave your culture and who you are and be proud of that. You don't have to take on the corporate culture beyond a certain point. And so if you are assimilating to be exactly a clone, you've gone too far. So I think that the list for me was problematic, because it did not say how to survive in a culture that may not want you there. So you need to be prepared. You need to be smart. You need to network. You need to find your tribe. There's just so many things that I had to learn as an African American person, and to know, like I said, when to leave the party. Because especially at some of those Christmas parties, like they said, they had to stop having Christmas parties because people got drunk and things went out of control. And I just knew, for me, I didn't have any power, and I just didn't want to be around people drinking. And the thing I noticed was that people will put out vibes to see if you pick up on it. And if you don't pick up on it at all, you're vulnerable. And if you pick up on it and you choose not to do anything, you're vulnerable. So you got to say, okay, how can I keep this job for a little longer? And I'm going to have to take some action. And it's so hard. It's just so hard to know what to do. So to have an opportunity to give advice to young Latinas or Latinx, that list just sounds like I could cut that out the back of any leadership magazine.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to remind us that the writers here, for the most part, are relatively young women. So it's not a list of advice written by the tried and true corporate trooper, Kim Brandon.
Michelle, wait, hold the phone for a second. I'm sorry. If you have a blog, right?
Yeah.
And you're putting out there that you have some expertise on a certain topic. If you don't really, then what you're writing about? I don't think it's advice from Kim Brandon. I think that you missed an opportunity here. And if you don't know the topic, do a little research. That's all I'm saying. Do a little research.
And I also think there's maybe a transferability issue. I don't know. I don't know if what's Crunkista. I didn't see Crunkista is under a different kind of cloak of anonymity here, right? So I'm not sure. So let me kind of use an analogy. I've never been in corporate, and I don't think I am the type of person for corporate, right? I think almost certain. I've always been in education, or nonprofits, something tied to education in some capacity. So I almost feel like this was written from the vantage point of someone who may not really have accessed that kind of terrain, but here is probably some fitting advice, like a so-called general. And I think that's what's not working here. That's what's not transferred. And that's why I was asking you all, like, I've never been in corporate, but at least I've heard jokes. Like people are saying like, and then she, or he wore this, tried to outdo it. And maybe that person was dressing for the job they want. But they came in this very cheap suit. Is it better for a person to wear a nice pair of slacks, just a pair of slacks and a sweater as opposed to trying to, so I don't know. And maybe I'm just reading that literally, but I think that's kind of what there's no transferability here for me. I'm not convinced that this person has been in these kind of industries. I think this is somebody, whoever Conquista is probably in a different field and trying to give some general advice. But corporate is a whole nother beast. Right? So, and I'm glad listening to Kim, of course, I'm also, and other people I know, I'm so happy that, because I think that would crush me. I can't take it. I would have been the one saying mercy first day, like, y'all got to, y'all got to come get somebody because I got to go. I can't do this.
But for me, in terms of the clothing, what I would do is buy clothes, good clothes, off season.
Yes.
So like you go to Lord & Taylor's and you buy your winter clothes in June.
Yes.
And so you get your Jones New York suits, you get your pearls, you get your pumps, you get your stockings, you buy them by the gross, and you suit up and you show up and you look better, as good or better than anybody else, because nobody was going to say that my slip was hanging. I wasn't giving any person anything that they could use against me because they were already using the race against me. And then in certain rooms, it was the fact that I was female.
Yes.
So I find it and I was vice president of a major bank. So I find it the same way they talking about Tyler Perry, the same way they calling out Tyler Perry, I'm calling them out. Because I find it irresponsible to sit in a room full of young women and pull up this list that you Xerox from somewhere, that's if Xerox still exists, and say that this is advice to you as a Latina in corporate America when they got that in their marketing class. They got that in their management classes. What are you bringing to the table that's different?
Okay, that makes sense.
I just feel like and now the corporate climate is even more aggressive. So I just feel bad for those students who had to listen to that. But the fact that it is now being published in an anthology of your best posts, come on, step up your game.
So the respectability,
right?
Politics here. And I think I'm saying something. I think for me, this is classist. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I cannot stand when people have said, first, you're presuming that I have a specific knowledge. So Kim would have been, and then I've been in fields where I did not have to dress, that way. I don't have to dress so formal. Like there are educators who do, but for the most part, some slacks and a blouse and you're okay. So I've hated advice like that as a young woman where people have said that to me because it has a way of revealing my social class. I don't, when not growing up spending that kind of money on clothes, having, as a young mom, having children, like I can't spend money like that on, that's just not a priority. I don't even know how to shop like that. I've gotten better over the years, of course, but I'm just saying this reminded, it took me back to be transparent to advice that I've gotten, like, if you would, you've got to dress the part. Well, who's going to give me the goddamn money? I'm like, okay, well, okay, give me the gift card, give me the money. And that's always been problematic for me, so much so that honestly, you all, I can't even tell. And maybe that's my coping strategy, because I don't know when somebody has on a Gucci belt or, you know, I don't know. I know that sometimes they're really tucking shirts and you know, for it to be seen, but I don't know. So anyway, that was my main issue with it. I felt like you've got to be careful with this kind of list. And I couldn't, and the number one just got my stoke the fire there. Because it could be classist as well.
I do find that a lot of times that me, as an African American, a lot of times we do dress above our pay grade. So I don't think that's a huge issue because we know how to, you know, make $1 from 15 cents. We you know, that's the black girl magic. We know how we may look bad that first 2 months, but once we get that second paycheck, it's on.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess that is a skill because I've never, you know, I've never had or known really, but yeah. But that's really what
I'm like you, Nicole. I just don't even care about it. This is just my night not to care. And again, you know, as in the other articles, and going back to Leonie's first question about what's missing, you know, with what was it? What is lost by the lack of narratives around the experience of Black women? You know, kind of really the theme for me throughout these essays, it just reminds me of what a visual culture and how so many people seem to constantly be judging us on external factors, be it the color of our skin or the size of our bodies or how we do our hair or what clothes we wear, you know, all of these things that really say nothing about what is going on in our heads and our hearts and our spirits. You know, and so that's what gets lost. That's what gets lost when you don't really know us, when you judge us by these very limited and limiting external factors. And, you know, and it's another way of kind of erasing our voice, telling us that what's on our inside doesn't matter. Who wants to hear? I mean, one of the reasons I'm motivated to do this reading circle is because I kind of have been going through life saying, well, you know, when's the day gonna come that folks start being interested in what I have? Well, it ain't coming. Because the message is you don't matter. Black lives don't matter. We don't care what you think. We don't care how you feel. We don't care what you know. And so, you know, until we care.
That's right.
You know, ourselves, then it ain't no caring.
That's right, Michelle.
So I resent all of these judgments on external factors. It's very shallow, and it indicates to me that as a species, we are stuck on some bullshit.
Yep, I can agree.
So when your lawyer comes in the courtroom, Michelle, and they looking a little tore up from the floor up,
you ain't happy about that.
I ain't happy.
It is rhetorical.
You dress the part. You have to dress the part. And I love that you went back to Leonie's question, because also what's missing in the narrative is us sharing our experiences with each other so that each one knows all that the others know. So what to wear on Casual Friday, because Casual Friday wasn't actual Casual Friday. So you would see the little sisters come in there, and they would have on their little too short shorts or something, and you had to pull them aside and say, sis, Casual Friday don't mean Casual Friday on the block. And you're being judged. So if you're planning on staying here for a while, you may need to look at what other people are wearing. And that's the voice that's missing, that all the knowledge that I have as an African American woman, I don't feel that it's getting shared with generations who are a little younger than I am, or even younger still. So, and then I don't feel that the women above me shared a lot of information to me. I had to find out way too much on my own.
And
I think that's why we live in a world where white folks can get away with things that we can't, like I went to college with a lot of white folks, and they wear jeans and
that's true,
and little t-shirts and very casual, and even going into the workplace, Nicole, in the nonprofit sector, very casual environment. But they will be walking around with PhDs and MDs and all kinds of stuff, jeans and t-shirts on, and still respected for the credentials that they bring to the table. When we walk around with the jeans and t-shirts, somebody, it's a different kind of assumption being made.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's why I needed to disclose, because I don't know those kind of corporate culture rules. I've never been there, don't ever plan to be there. As I stated, that's certainly not. Education is my world. And in education, like I said, you have people who dress up, dress down. I don't know. I guess maybe what corporate calls business casual. I think that's pretty much everyday standard dress for me and most of my my colleagues. You don't necessarily, like, I get that clothing attire, that's rhetorical. That is persuasive in and of itself. You can persuade someone based on how you are dressed. I know the type of respect I'm given when I'm wearing, a very old, like, jacket with a dress and heels versus, my everyday is pretty much business casual. But I think that's maybe what Kim said it better. Maybe what I'm angry about is that we say this to young people, and then there's no mentor. Like, there's this gap. So you leave a person to try to figure out, okay, so what, especially people who don't have that kind of context. Say you grew up and your parents were blue collar workers, so they wore uniforms every day, right? So you don't have, if you don't have that type of context. Now, of course, today, and I do have to walk this back a little bit, because they have the beauty of the internet. I didn't have that. So they can search now. See, when I was younger, I didn't have that. I didn't have the internet. So I had to kind of figure out, like, people would say, well, when I was a brand new school teacher, well, I think you could become a diag. I see you moving up. You need to dress for the job you want. Well, what does that mean? How does that translate? And I think I think that's really what it is, to do the work of saying, look, and if that's your skill set as Black women, maybe that's, another thing. Maybe that's your skill set. Hey, let me show you how to pull this together. You can make, jazz this up. I don't know. It was just a little off-putting to me.
One of the things that helped me a lot was that I had joined an African American Toastmasters group, and it was corporate people who were looking at their presentation and their people skills, and we mentored each other. So it wasn't that you can definitely have a mentor inside the company, but I think that if you're a young Latina, you need to be in a group where Latinas are mentoring each other.
Yes.
Because I think that helped me more than anything, because I was able then to mentor younger managers who were just getting started, and I can tell them anything that I had learned.
It makes so much sense.
So it is now 6:40. To find out what we want to do, there are two more questions. Do we want to leave them for our individual reflection, or do we want to take a stab at them real quick?
Leonie got us going here.
Yeah.
I'll take a stab. That's my vote.
I'm gonna leave you guys to it. I unfortunately have to leave now.
Okay, Leonie.
I have a session to attend. I'm at a conference, so. But please do enjoy.
Nice
I look forward to.
Very nice question.
Oh, I'm glad.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Take
job.
care.
Bye, Leonie.
Bye.
Kim, why don't you, Nicole, you have a few minutes?
Yeah, I still have a few minutes, yeah.
Okay, Kim, why don't you read question 5 and I will be right back.
All right.
Okay.
My own reading experience of memory, survival, and safety generated a feeling of weight and suppression. So many of Black women and girls have a persistent experience of sexual harassment and abuse where, with nowhere to turn. As the writer says, the clues that I was abused were always there. The adults around me just didn't know what to do with the information. We don't know what to do with our child abusers in our family or communities. What could a Black response to the cycle of abuse look like, given the political content Black bodies are living in?
Wow. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Kim.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's why when you see that post, I will call the post, right? When you see the post, the one on weight, that's why I think that it just could have been something where you're not dialing it in, that you're saying that there are emotional medical issues that deal with that, because all of a sudden you see your child is gaining weight and you're trying to figure out what is it that they're eating down, what feelings can't they deal with, you know, why do they need this level of protection? I don't know. I just think that I don't know. I don't know. I just know that I'm glad we're finishing this book. And it has been an eye-opener in other ways. So it has been helpful in some ways. But all I can say is 2 more weeks of this.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, Kim. To talk about sexual abuse in our community is really and I think that's any community, so it's not like it's just, so I don't want to apply the Black or the mythical unicorn here, because it happens in any community. But to painfully go back to the family structure and to look at that's Cooper, correct? That was Cooper's essay, right? Or her post.
Memory survival is Crunkista.
Oh, that's Crunkista. Oh, crap. Okay. I don't know why I thought that was Cooper, but anyway. Okay, so the anonymous one. So to have a grandfather sexually abuse her and to know that it's so charged culturally, socially, politically, historically charged. And to be honest with you, the ways in which as Black women, we have tried to deal with this to protect the bodies of our children. I can personally say, and I don't know what's going to happen once my daughters get older, they'll probably hate me for it, but they just cannot go. I don't care if it's a family member, because I know a lot of pain in families have been caused. Sexual abusers in the family. So, and that's still not even given the totality of this issue. But what could we do to protect these bodies? That's so difficult, and it almost makes me mourn, because you think about, as a young child, like, her grandmother knew, but her mom never knew. And then when she makes the argument, and that, it just really hurt me to say, like, when her mom finds out, her mom put
Was angry with her.
pain, yeah. The pain is deflected. So she's angry with her, saying, but he could have done this to your, like, and I get that, I get the argument. But as a child, I imagine she felt unprotected. Right. And then there's this fear, like, I don't care, and that saddens me more. Like, I don't care how many times and how often you tell children, hey, you need to tell me what's happened, tell me it's so with shame that sometimes, no matter what we say, and we've done that work, they're not going to tell. I don't know. And it comes out, in other ways in our lives when we are holding those secrets. I don't know, you all. That's a good question. What do you all suggest?
For me, it's just another example, one of the many examples that I think requires our openness about it. And so she's making the point that I know to be true, that the clues are there. And so as adults, we have to learn, well, what are those clues? What does it look like? But, you're not, as a parent, you're not given a parenting handbook. You're not born knowing how to be the best parent. It's a learning process. And, parents, one child will often tell you that they do things differently with their second and third children than they do with, because they were learning so much with the first child. But so the more that we can, like the mentoring Kim was talking about for corporate America, the more that we can help each other, help young parents learn what those clues are, and then how to react. And, and that's the hard part, but it's actually probably easier to talk about what not to do.
Wow.
To talk about what to do.
That's so true.
And so you certainly don't want to do what Crunkista's mother did, which was to get angry with her, get angry with the child for not divulging the information. My mother just never said a single word. She didn't say a hurtful word, but she never said a single word. That was hurtful to me.
Absolutely.
Like, did you hear me?
Absolutely.
And so what I would have wanted, and I was a young adult by the time I found the voice to tell her, but what I would have wanted was a simple, I'm sorry to hear that happen. I had known. A simple acknowledgement, because I know you can't go back and undo what's been done.
Right. Right.
But I would have at least wanted to know that you heard me and that you felt my pain. But I think that, again, parents don't come with a handbook on what to do. And so it's shocking for a parent to hear that kind of information. And so they need, and that's why I think that there needs to be some kind of educational component with parents before these situations come up. May have some little strategies in their mind on how to react, because I think if you don't, then it's shocking to the parent.
Yes, that's so true.
Traumatizing to the parent. And so you come out with something inappropriate that just, you know, worsens the situation.
Yes. Much sense.
But it's very complex stuff. What could the Black community, what could the Black response to the cycle of abuse look like, given the political context Black bodies are living in? Again, all I can really think of is as much openness, honesty, transparency as we can possibly muster. This tendency to deny the possibility that it could have happened, this tendency to wrap our arms around the victimizer. You know, I think we have to crack that code, because if someone, all right, in my case, the victimizer was my brother, a few years older than me, but he had his own emotional health problems that need to be addressed. And so if you just ignore it altogether, if you just say nothing, then nobody really gets the help that they need. And so I don't think it's, you know, so pretending that something didn't happen is not the answer. You know, it's a lot easier to talk about what not to do than what to do. Pretending that it didn't happen is not the answer.
That makes so much sense.
Michelle, I really appreciate what you're saying. And when you say that we have to not wrap our arms around the abuser, that is just so huge, because depending on where the money is coming from, all of a sudden you got some hard decisions to make. And that's when I read this particular post and the mother starts saying you should have said something sooner, I just felt like the mother knew. I just felt like the mother was scapegoating this child, that she knew. On some ways, that all she had to say was, thank you for telling me. I'm going to address this. I'm going to do something. And she didn't do that. And so in my family, there was somebody interested in my daughter. And I had to talk to homeboy and homeboy's wife. And I just kind of said, this ain't going to end pretty for nobody. This is not, don't try to groom my kid. Whatever you do, every shut-eye ain't sleeping over here. I'm just not sleeping. And what I found that was heartbreaking for me is that all of a sudden I was shunned. You know, and so I felt real bad, but at the same time, I'm a parent first. You know, I'm a parent first, but I could look at the economics of the situation and see that the fact that this man makes so much money, I just got the impression that whatever he wanted, he could have. Even when you invited guests into your house, he could have that.
Wow.
You know, so, and then I had to talk to my kid about the fact that I don't trust this person. And they are to never be alone with this person. And I don't know if I did the right thing. And at one point she came back to me and she says, he's creepy. He's creepy. And I was just like, yeah, you get it. You get it. You know, because it just would not end well. I would be in some prison somewhere because it wouldn't enroll, but I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is, what if there was a day that was dedicated to survivors, where survivors could tell their stories, write poems, hang them from trees, make it something where it's a day of healing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Bye, Nicole.
Bye, Nicole. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's what, and then it's an opportunity for children, male and female, to say to their parents, something happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Since we talked last year, it ain't been a good year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I just think when the man has all of the power, and not that women aren't abusers too.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. You're right. That's a great point. Follow the money. It's like other forms of domestic violence, you know. And, you know, a lot of time, not always, but a lot of times when you get down to, well, why did she stay? You know, you know, it's about the money. It's about not having your own economic independence.
And you grow accustomed to things.
Yeah.
For a honey child.
Well, Kim, why don't we call it a night?
That sounds like a good idea.
Thank you so much for all of your great insight and mentoring, and
vice versa.
Yeah, wonderful. And again, Leonie really gave us some thought-provoking questions here. So thanks again to her.
Yes.
So all right, what's the subject next week? Let's see. Sisterhood.
Yay. Yay.
She's not heavy, she's my sister.
Yay. And I'm going to remember these are little posts.
You're going to what?
I'm going to remember that these are little posts.
Yes, little
quick
essays. Not essays. You know, thinking about it like that does make a difference for me. It, you know, because you know, because it's true. Well, all right. You have a good night.
All right, Michelle. Take good care.
See you later.
See you later.